These are seedlings I was lucky enough not to plant early, and it'll be about time to put them out when they're big enough. And here's a broken branch off of a fig tree, Texas everbearing fig, and it's rooted so I can make another fruit tree. It broke off, so I thought, well, time to plant it. Matt's wild cherries, tomatoes, and a Ukrainian variety of green striped watermelon that does well in cool weather, and some purple beauty bell peppers. And here I had to dig up all of my garden, every bit of it, all these jalapenos and all these jalapenos and all these purple tomatoes, all those tomatoes and all these tomatoes, and that perpetual spinach. I had to bring in my Venus flytrap, some Italian climbing tomatoes, some more Italian climbing tomatoes. I had to dig up everything out there. Here's some of the beeswax I just made. The kiwis all frosted, all froze. See the dead leaves? They got blasted by 28 degrees last night, Fahrenheit. It's not affected the shiitakes. What you doing on the tractor? What you doing on the tractor? Get off the tractor, Piper. Billy, look at her. Look at her, Billy. Are you challenging Billy? Are you challenging little Billy? Piper. Piper. Billy. Yeah. All the kiwis got blasted. All those nice, beautiful green leaves it made, gone. Well, the bees and the hummingbirds still have their buckeye. But it's too cold for the bees to fly just yet. It was 28 Fahrenheit last night, and it's still not over 50 now. The pecan trees got burned back. Hope it doesn't interfere with their flowering ability, because we won't get any nuts. But there's a rare one. This one right here didn't get hurt. But the mulberry, all its male flowers are fried, but that doesn't matter. A mulberry doesn't need pollination to bear fruit. It just needs pollination to make seeds. So there won't be any fertile seeds in the fruit, but there'll still be fruit. I covered up all the figs, so they're protected. Their little sprouts are still under there, nice and green. But the muscadines, they mostly got burnt back. The cherries were unharmed by the freeze. I still have lots of cherries on these trees, even some flowers. The sugar maples didn't mind. The freeze didn't hurt their leaves one bit. This cherry tree is still full of fruit, and even some of its blossoms are still with their petals. It's kind of windy. Now the pear leaves are fine, but the fruit has been devastated. Every single fruit has a ring of necrosis, good and dead. See, that fruit is not going to mature. Really sad, because I had a really great fruit set. Super good. And now you see it's all shriveled up. It's just not going to do anything. Too bad for the pears. They're all black and dead. Now the chestnuts, every shoot has been killed, but they weren't even near ready to bloom yet. So hopefully this won't destroy their ability to make their nuts. But the whole tree has been fried by the cold. Here's a young chestnut tree that I had a lot of hope for. It was doing so beautifully, and now it's been set back. Not a big problem. It'll grow new buds and start over. I don't have to be concerned that the bees won't have anything to eat, thanks to the wonderful Russian olive, also known as autumn olive. The Russian olive has really got a lot of flowers on it. It smells really good. The little fruits that are unripe look like olives, but when they ripen, they are sparkly pink and are very tart and delicious. We don't use them in the USA, but in Asia and Europe, or Eurasia, they really love them in that continent. As much as animals like salt. Here's another young chestnut that got destroyed by the freeze. Its leaves have had it now. They're just crumbly dead. But I put a bucket over this young mulberry I made from cuttings. Let's see how it did under the bucket. Well, it didn't do much good. It helped a little though. There's still some life there, but it definitely caused some of the leaves still to get fried. So the bucket wasn't a safe cure. It was just too cold, just way too cold. The Orient pear got all its leaves so beautifully, and it had so much fruit. I feel really bad about this tree losing it. Well, there is hope. This tree does have some fruits that look like they might be damaged, but they might still survive it. They will be blemish looking. Maybe because of the thick leaf cover, they're going to make it, some of the fruit. Sure hope so. Now this apple doesn't look so bad. Still got some young apples on it, and they're not devastated. I even see some blossoms that haven't yet opened. So apples are able to take the cold a little better than pears. The oregano took the 28 degrees just fine. I see it's a little purplish tinged on the edges, but it's still alive, still standing up. I buried all these figs yesterday over where they were sprouting. The cold already killed the figs up above ground, but where they were shooting down below the snow line, they were getting ready to get a second wallop from this extremely late freeze we had last night, but I saved them from that by burying them with dirt. Same thing I did with my potatoes. Yeah, it's really windy today. I bet this video makes a lot of wind racket. It is cold today for April 21st. These Warren pears are in a pretty good location, being next to the creek. The creek keeps the water, the creek with the moving water keeps the air flowing, and that kind of keeps the freeze from not settling in too fast. And I think the fruit's good on the Warren pears. This Warren pear had fire blight, very rare in a Warren pear, but it got it, so I had to cut the dead branches out. I got it fire blight because I put nitrogen on the pear tree. You don't want to ever put nitrogen on a pear tree. I just wanted to test them because they said they'd never gotten fire blight before, and sure enough, a little nitrogen and voila, fire blight. Instant nitrogen, instant fire blight. This tree's real healthy. Same thing, a Warren pear without the nitrogen. And oh no, its pears are badly damaged as well. They're rotten in there. Bad thing. That's okay. A year without fruit? Nah. This sort of thinned the fruit. I'm sure that some of them will survive. It was too heavy of a crop anyways. Too much for the tree to bear. The trees break branches when the pears are too thick. Yeah, all the pecan trees, every one of them, has all of its leaves fried off, and unfortunately some of them were already in bloom. So there'll not be any nuts on those trees. But even the young seedling apple trees did fine. They just laugh at the cold. They laugh at it. The English walnuts, they got burnt back. They never do well anyway here. They just don't do anything. I've had lots of them I planted hoping for them to do well, but they don't. Yes, this one got fried back. Well, even if they don't bear any fruit to share, pear trees are magnificent. This BB tree sure got cooked back bad. But over there you can see the devastation that minus that really cold temperature of below 5 degrees Fahrenheit. It went down below that, but I don't know what it was. But as long as it gets below 5 degrees, the bamboo dies above ground. So luckily this smart Huzu bamboo hasn't shot up any shoots yet, so it didn't get killed by this freeze. Once it puts its shoots up, it'll be its first time this year, and it will make it. It'll still be strong. Well, that's good to know. The dill seedlings, the little seedlings right there, those little things, they took the 28 just fine. I was real worried about those because there was no way I could bury them. So, and this is a real special dill we got from the Ukraine, and so I did not want to lose it. And it was all the seeds I had. And I ran out of sweet potato mulch to cover it. See, I covered it with sweet potato mulch from last year's sweet potatoes. And under there, they'll be fine. Yes, and they were already fine anyway. That's great. That's good. Anyway, cabbage did it. Cabbage seedlings were able to handle the cold. They don't take it too cold though. 28's about it. I see damage. These white leaves came from that damage. And the outer leaf, that definitely got damaged. That leafy there is all watery. But you still got new growth in the middle. Somehow it protects itself in the middle where the growing points are. But cabbage does not like really cold weather. It does not like to be below freezing. Never plant it below freezing. It damages its leaves. I'm sure when it gets really big and mature, it can tolerate freezing, but you sure don't want to grow it up when it's freezing. I have failed with cabbage so many times because I was thinking that it was really hardy like other cabbage family plants, but it's not really hardy. It does not like being frozen. That's for sure. But yeah, it's doing good now. I had to bury my entire line of potatoes, and that entire line of potatoes, and this entire line of potatoes, and it took me forever, but I got it done. And the lettuce that I planted, lucky for me, you can still see these lettuce seedlings right there. They're still fine. All the lettuce is going to be fine. It took 28 just fine. Now, it was very stupid of me to plant my cucumbers so early, but I had faith that it was going to be all right, or hope that it was going to be all right. But unfortunately, it shriveled to nothing. Everywhere there's a cane was a cucumber plant. Good thing I grow them myself, because that would have been a lot of money down the drain. And my mulberry, it froze. This is I bought it as a black mulberry, but you're going to find a whole lot of black mulberries for sale are absolutely not the black mulberry. The true black mulberry, I found out, I don't even want it. It's a very small tree. It bears very delicious mulberries, but they are not winter hardy in zone 7 by any means. You have to be probably down by 10 or 9 zone before it would even do anything. Probably not even unless you're in 10 zone, because it's not a winter temperate type plant. It's definitely a tropical plant, and it likes dry, arid conditions. So the true black mulberry would grow great in the southwest desert, down in the valleys, like around San Fernando valleys and places like that, in the San Joaquin Valley, and down into Arizona. I forgot the name of that valley. Maybe down in South Texas. Maybe not. South Texas gets cold too. But the black mulberry is really sought after by mulberry collectors. And also the famous long Pakistani mulberry that everybody loves. It won't grow in Zone 7 either. I tried that and got failure. It died of the cold the first year, and it was the mildest winter I've ever had. That's my favorite pecan tree right there. It has big nuts. Well, it's not my favorite one. Over there by my dog Billy, that's my favorite pecan. And I don't know the name. I think, well, I'm not even going to guess. It might be an Oconee, and this might be a Pawnee, but I don't know. But anyway, I hope the cold didn't damage it too bad. But its buds are there. I just don't know how mature they are, because if they're pretty well along, they got frozen. And another thing, I don't hill my potatoes because, you see, I don't need to. Look at that. I mean, I had to bury them with dirt, and I did it right before the freeze came. If I'd already pre-hilled them when the freeze came, I wouldn't have had any dirt to bury the tops with before the freeze. And potatoes are one of the most sensitive to freeze. They just melt when it gets 32. Even the lightest frost can melt them. They'll melt down to nothing, and they'll have to come back from the tuber you've already planted, and it'll get so weak that it won't bear a good crop. And these are going to bear a really good crop, because as soon as I'm sure the weather's stable, maybe tomorrow, because so far when the weather people tell me it's going to be 32 degrees or below, it almost always becomes that cold or colder. And then they tell me the next day is not going to be cold, that night's going to be warm. It always freezes even colder that second night, every time on my records. Oh no, the goats are in the moso. I see the goats are in the moso. I let them out every day to have fun and graze. They only have 3 acres of land to play on at their own. And I usually supervise them, but apparently I'm not supervising them. Some of my young pecan trees are covered up with all those blankets and buckets so that they didn't freeze. But now I found out it didn't help. It got too cold for that. This entire muscadine vineyard was damaged. The cold was just too much for it. This winter, this whole vine died. The vine next to it died. Almost every one of these is severely damaged. And then now, whatever it tried to do to recover, the ones that are alive, they just got burnt back by this weird, exotic cold spell. It froze this late in the year. Like I said, I've only known it to freeze this late in the year one time in 22 years. And that was a very quick freeze. But it did really bad damage. Worse than this time. But the whole vineyard is just devastated. I mean, these aren't going to recover. These are dead twigs. They're dead. They're dead twigs. They are dead. And yeah, I'll have to cut that all the way back to the ground once I see some shoots coming up from the bottom and start these vines over again. Here's how you really know some bad stuff. If you see orange sap or anything leaking out, you know it's really had it. This vine here, it was starting to come back to life, but it got sapped. I gotta go get those goats out of that moso. They're destroying what few shoots I have. At the moment, this damaged above ground moso appears that somehow or another, well, I can't be sure, maybe not. It looks like these shoots survived the 28 degrees. They were far enough along, but I don't know.